evening and welcome to City Council meeting of June the 27th. Madam Clerk, could you read the roll call, please?
Certainly. Mr. Shiland? Present. Ms. Gray?
Here.
Mr. Moore? Here. Ms. Reclue?
Present.
Mr. Shiverdecker?
Here.
Mr. Stone?
Present.
Mr. Vaughn? And Mr. West?
Here.
7 council members present, 1 absent.
Okay, very good. Thank you. If you all rise with me, Pastor Bruce Williamson is with us this evening. And welcome, Pastor. And thank you for being here.
Privilege, sir. Dear Lord, grateful for such a beautiful day as you've given us. Wonderful. Thank you for the gentle rains we've had this past week. The farmers in the field with the beans and the corn, the crops are coming along nicely, and most of the hay is harvested. We're grateful for your blessings here in Mid-America. We're thankful, Lord, always for the community we live in, for the lifestyle that all of us enjoy and doing our work and raising our families. I never want to take that for granted. Always grateful, Lord, for the community that we have. We pray for tonight's session here for the mayor and council persons and all those that will be involved in the discussions and any decisions that are made here tonight. Always we ask that you bless with your wisdom and grace and approval. We pray for those in our city family who need your perpetual care, and we want to be faithful to remember them tonight. And there may be others besides those that I mentioned. I want to cover them all. I include tonight all of the folks, Lord, that work on our streets each day in this hot weather. I want to remember them as a group. In addition, I remember Chief Myers, Mayor Benton, Mr. Moore, Mr. and Mrs. Reclue, Mr. Chiland, Gabriel Polston and his parents, and any and all others that are a part of our city family who need your touch this day. We're grateful, Lord, to live in the nation that we live, and we pray for our servants and our U.S. soldiers and first responders that work in every community to protect liberty and defend freedom for our nation. God, and direct this session tonight and our lives. We pray this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
Choose your seat.
She retired. At the beginning of every council meeting, we set aside a time for those who wish to address the council on a concern they may have within the city. All we do is ask that you keep your comments to no longer than 5 minutes, of which it will be timed by the city clerk, and that council will not address any concerns that you may have, but again, they will take them and may address those concerns later in the meeting. So at this time, if there's anyone present who would like to address the council, please come forward. Okay, seeing no one coming forward, we'll move on to the approval of the consent agenda. Those items on the consent agenda are the approval of the minutes of May 23, the approval of the minutes of June 13, and the acceptance of the Director's Administration Report, and acknowledgement of the Human Rights Board meeting, Demolition Board of Appeals meeting, and the Traffic Commission meeting. Those minutes, I believe they were in your packet.
Well, if there's no objections, you're going to find this hard to believe. Unless they want to take off Director Administration Report, I move do we acknowledge all of these?
Second.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I have an objection. I would like to have the Director of Administration's report pulled. That's a question.
Okay, very good. We'll address the Director's Administration Report, so that leaves the 2 minutes and the 3 committee reports. So I will, if that's agreeable, that amendment, Mr. Moore, with your motion, we'll go ahead and
Are you good,
Mr. Mayor?
if I have a second, we'll go for that. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a simple question about the minutes from the Human Rights Commission. I guess I would like to pull that one out.
Okay.
Just for a short question.
We'll take it off. Mr. West, do you have something?
No, I seconded her motion to remove the DOA report, and I'll second Mr. Stone's motion as well.
Oh.
If we need that.
We don't need a motion.
We don't need
Just,
that.
we'll just pull them off.
Okay.
Okay, so that leaves us in the two council minutes and the traffic commission report. Okay, and can I have a motion to approve what's left on that consent agenda?
I move that we
Okay,
proceed with the consent agenda with the remaining items.
thank you.
Second.
Second, very good. Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Okay, very good. We'll take them in order. We'll look at the Human Rights Commission report.
There was a note at the end of the minutes concerning a possible human rights violation situation in the community. It was not addressed in detail, and I just questioned if anybody that had knowledge of that issue that they were addressing, if it was anything that we needed to be made aware of as a city council. It was vague enough that I became curious.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I saw that too, but had not had a chance to check on it, so.
My knowledge of that is having to do with a situation that has been in the news
Okay.
as of late, is
All right.
what was discussed.
Did you have anything you wanted to embellish?
Well, I'm gonna say if it's a real report, we usually don't get exactly what it is till the state has really investigated, and then we get an update on it.
Right.
Yeah, it was a criminal investigation. We have to let that
Right.
proceed on its process. Okay. Any other questions on that?
So in other words, Mr. Stone doesn't know any more now than he did a few minutes ago?
But I
Sounds
assume,
that
but I
way.
assume that I do know more than I did a few minutes ago, and now I
Okay.
believe I know what they're referencing in the vague minutes, and I'm okay with that,
Okay.
Very good.
with what was written.
Okay. So do I have a motion to accept the Human Rights Commission report?
I move we accept the Human Rights Commission report as
I
written.
second.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. Have a motion and a second to accept the Human Rights Commission report. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Okay, very good, thank you. And let's see, we wanted to take off the DOA report, is that right? So, any questions on the DOA report? Department heads are with us, please sing out.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do have a couple on page 3. I was looking through our health report, inspections and so on. We have one that has had an awful lot of violations, and they're taken care of, then they're not, then they are. And I was wondering if you could explain a little bit if that happens to be Dairy Queen, and what's going on with that?
And I didn't hear all what you said.
Okay, the Dairy Queen,
Uh-huh.
okay. Several violations, priority, non-violations, back and forth, back and forth. What's
No
going on there?
business
Yeah,
Just had some problems. I do believe he's got most of those corrected by now.
okay, so are we okay with it right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, that's all on that. Thank you. Okay. Okay, let's see. Then on page, I'm sorry, slow tonight.
Just give me a minute to get there.
Yeah, okay, good, yeah. Okay, I would like to congratulate 3 of our firefighters who were promoted to engineer. First one is Randy Belt, Justin Malone, and Scott Peterson on their promotions to engineering. I'd like everyone to address that. I appreciate that. I think that's wonderful.
Kevin, can you pass on our congratulations to them?
Yes, would you please? And Mike, did you have something else?
You picked up the same thing I did, but I was gonna ask something else, yes.
Go ahead.
You finished?
That's it, that's all.
Page 36, now I gotta find out, remember what it was.
Yeah, me too.
While we're looking, I also
Yeah.
want to acknowledge Chief Kofelt. I think this is his first meeting since his promotion. Congratulations.
I think he was here last time, wasn't he? Anyway.
Slacker.
Okay, on page 36 is the interim engineer's report. At the airport, there are several issues that we're still waiting for the FAA reinspection on the PAPI lights, did they come in?
That's been completed.
Did they come in Friday?
Yeah.
Okay, and we're good? How about our windsock? All right,
Awesome.
and on a positive note, we've got the park gates over there, or came from Morningside Park, you got a new gate that's working, or new to the airport anyway.
Right.
How about our T-hangers? Damage there?
I don't, as far as what, Councilman?
Well, just, what's the status? Okay,
They're-
I'll get,
There's a couple of them without a roof. And we really haven't discussed plans as to whether to repair or not repair. I think the plan right now is to not repair them.
okay. Wastewater treatment plant, supposed to be finished yesterday contractually, so where do we stand with that? It says we're 68% complete.
We recently, just last week, secured a 27-day extension with the contractor, and DNR is pretty much signed off on that.
Okay,
The couple of the major milestones were completed, very close to on time, and I think that's going pretty well.
yeah, it looks like, what did I see? The disinfection and UV is working
Yeah.
in operation. Okay. Then you have something here about a bridge over Second Street Bridge over Citizen Creek.
Yeah.
The proposal.
Yeah.
For that, yeah.
That was what I was trying to find also.
Yeah, we did a study of that bridge. MoDOT had it as, needing some improvements in the somewhat near future. We're looking probably another, 3 to 5 years before we have to address it.
Okay. I'm sure it won't be cheap, will it?
No, probably
300,
3 to
400.
400 range, depending on what we do.
Okay. All right, thank you, that's all I have.
As part of that report, the concrete deck was rated as its serious condition. And they signaling the end of life. But when we're talking about a bridge, end of life, we're still looking 3 to 5 years from now, or is there something we're going to need?
Serious, the engineers that took a closer look at it, thought that it maybe wasn't quite as serious as it sounds.
Okay.
So they, what they would tell me verbally is that they thought we had another 3 to 5 years of life. But starting to.
Thank you, Con.
I had one more thing. I see on the miscellaneous on page 37, talk to MoDOT about the Mocane Road Bank dangerous area. They will put up object markers. Now, what's the status on that?
They have yet to do that, but they agree to put some, they're just hash signs that kind of
Like a
make it more
warning?
visible.
Are they? Okay. I have.
Doesn't really give much more protection, just makes it more visible.
Those are the reflector type items that I had asked him to seek from MoDOT.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Anybody else have anything on DOA report?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir?
for Clay in the Tanglewood, I noticed from 2016, do you believe that we're increasing this summer? I noticed you're up 3,000 from last year for the end of May.
For the year, we're down. May was up, and I think June is going to be up too. So I think revenue is up slightly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Pretty well have it. If
Move for acceptance.
Thank you.
Second?
Have a motion and a second to accept DOA report. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Okay, very good, thank you. Now move on to Mrs. Holzlog on the financial report. If you kind of give us the highlights and the lowlights.
The first thing I'll tell you is that our sales tax collection with 4 months recorded we're down 2.6%. I'm not overly concerned at this point. It's very early in the year. I did take a look at our monthly sales tax reports that I receive from the state, and it appears to me that there are more and more business entities filing quarterly. So that we're going to see more of that. So I think, excuse me, in a couple months we'll have a better idea of where we're at. I will draw your attention to the fact that the health fund is doing much better this year than last. I think for the year we're up about $100,000, and at this point in time last year we were down 100. So we've had several big encumbrances. The solid waste department encumbered $246,000 for a new trash truck. The golf course, I think $26,000 was encumbered for a spray rig, and $45,000 was allocated between electric, gas, and water for a boring machine.
Thanks to the generosity of all the other city departments, the garage fund is in the black.
I was waiting for Mr. Moore to make that remark.
I was too. I wasn't going to say it.
The garage couldn't do it without the financial assistance of the other departments.
Oh, and during May, I did transfer the economic activity tax funds to the Fulton Commons debt service because there was a debt service payment due on June 1st.
Okay. So how are we doing on this tax increase for the ballpark and the water waste thing?
I've disclosed on the bottom, the last entry on the notes tells you what the bank balances are in each one of those accounts.
Okay. And the reasoning, did you say just a moment ago, why our sales tax is down 2.6%?
Well, I think part of it is that it appears to me, just from looking at the reports I receive every month from the state, that every year there are more businesses that are reporting quarterly instead of monthly.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's going to give us a lot more fluctuation.
All right, thanks.
Ms. Holzschlag,
Yes.
you just made a statement that we transferred some funds. I didn't really understand what's behind that.
The Fulton Commons TIF, the bond indenture, requires the city to transfer economic activity taxes that are collected in that area to the debt service fund.
Okay.
To satisfy the principal and interest payments, okay? So we have to, the general fund is required to transfer some of the sales tax money that we collected out there, the incremental piece, okay? It also comes out of capital improvement sales tax and out of the parks and revenue stormwater tax.
But I thought there was a special tax just for that, for out there.
There is a transportation development tax.
There is.
Which is separate, and it's 0.5%. That also goes to the debt service fund.
Okay. I don't understand why we're sending the other taxes there.
Because it's part of the bond indenture. When the bonds were originally issued, the agreement was made between the developer, the city, and the bank that here's what the city would do.
Okay.
So we had to go to all the taxing districts and say, are you willing to sign off on this? And everybody did.
Okay.
So the property tax pilots
Okay.
that's collected just in those redevelopment areas gets transferred to the debt service.
Okay.
Some of the sales tax, a very small piece of the total sales tax, is transferred to the debt service.
I thought it
as
was just
is
the incremental
TDD.
amount that was for
It is.
that.
Yeah,
Well,
it
there
is.
wasn't anything there, so.
But there was, it had a base of 0, so. There was nothing out there before the bonds were issued.
I thought we increased the tax rate in that area for just
We
this.
did.
We did. That's the TDD tax.
Right.
Which is 0.5%.
Okay.
Which is, that only applies to business entities within that area, okay?
Say CNR market. It's one of them.
Right, okay, so there's that extra 0.5%.
Okay.
But the property tax and the incremental sales tax, which is referred to as economic activity taxes, are all the other pieces that contribute to meeting that debt service.
Okay. I thought it was just the one piece. All right,
No.
thank you.
There's several
And
pieces.
if I ask this again in the future, just remind me.
Okay.
I probably will.
Or say, isn't that what you asked last year?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Holzlaw, I've got a request for the DOA report, and you can tell me if this isn't your normal practice or not. But usually what I see is our total revenues year-to-date, and rather than the total, balancing it against the total budget, you have the budget year-to-date. That way we can kind of see where we're at. I know you've got the percentages on the report that kind of show us how much of the year-to-date budget we've met. But it gives a clearer picture of, okay, we've taken in this much revenue, we've had this much expenses, and this is where we thought we'd be at this time of the year. Is that a number that you
Well,
have?
the problem with that, though, is,
Keep going.
Go ahead.
I've asked this question before too,
yeah,
Jeff.
you can't take the budget, I mean, this percentage is merely a guideline. If I put in here, this is where I would have to go through every line item in the budget, because some of our revenues.
Some of the revenues are very sporadic throughout
I
the year.
mean, property tax comes
Property
in in
tax comes
October and November.
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
You know, and all year, we're 2 months behind on sales tax, so we can't take that budget amount and divide it by 12.
Here.
That's not gonna tell you anything.
and
No, I-
does this help?
But-
At the top of the page, we're at the end of May, we should be at 41.67.
It does.
That's where we are in the year. We're at 41.67% through the year.
Right.
So look at these numbers over here on the right-hand column, compare those to the 41.67, if you want to just do it as a total breakup through the year.
I understand, and I understand that piece, but I was wanting it to balance against what you were saying, you know, we get a lot of revenue at the end of the year. So looking at the revenues, that still doesn't tell me anything. But if, I didn't know if you had it budgeted month to month,
No,
or where you
no.
expect
We
things to
have-
be.
No, we have
So
an
that you
annual
knew,
budget.
okay, this is
I
about where
know.
we should be.
But we have an annual budget.
Okay.
That's how we pass our budget, is for the year.
And those figures aren't, those month-to-month figures in terms of a budget aren't recorded anywhere.
No,
Okay.
no.
I've asked the same question before. I remember that one.
Now, because there's such a wide variation between the monthly revenues and expenditures, early on in the year, this 41.67, some of these might be off drastically,
Right.
drastically.
In administration,
But as you get towards
always
the
is.
end of the year, maybe you bought a new dump truck for the street department in January. Well, the general fund street department budget's gonna look like hell the whole year. Because they spent $150,000 in the first month. Whereas on the other hand, if they wait until December to buy that dump truck, their budget's gonna look great the whole year. And then it's all gonna
And
true
there's
up,
no way I
it's
can
all gonna true up
forecast
in
that.
December. So November, December, those numbers should be closer. But between now and the end of the year, some of them fluctuate greatly, some of them don't.
Gives us a general idea.
You know, golf course revenue, it's pretty slow in the wintertime.
Right.
So is the pool.
And for some departments that understand those fluctuations, if they're a normal cyclical fluctuation, then your monthly budget shows that also. You're not going to show a monthly budget expected of 1/12 of your total revenues in the golf course in January and February. You're going to show what you think your budget's going to be, and then your budget will grow in the summer months and in the fall months, and then it goes back down, and that way you can kind of base your actuals against what you think you're going to do.
We don't do a monthly budget.
And that's what I was asking.
Yeah. Sorry.
I've done lots of budgets, that's what I was wanting to know.
I move for acceptance of the financial report for May 2017.
Second.
Good. Have a motion and a second to accept the financials for, what are we doing, May? Any further discussion of that? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Thank you, Ms. Oswald.
Thank you,
Okay.
Kathy.
Very good. Now move on to unfinished business and solid waste container code discussion. You have in your packet proposals for changes to the ordinance and also some administrative type operation of that. We decided we'd we kind of kicked it back and forth whether or not to do an ordinance, but I thought we'd bring it to you one more time, get your input. And if I remember from looking at that, the proposed changes are in black and the current is in red. And so is there any comments or suggestions on what we're proposing here?
I would note that this was put together by members of the solid waste department, so they work with this every single day. And I think that they've done a great job. Wendy Powers did a great job putting together, again, what she works with every single day. Very knowledgeable.
I like the way it was put together with the red and the, yes. And I see nothing at this time.
Madam Clerk, why don't you go, just kind of highlight this for everyone, then we'll kind of have it from there.
Okay. I will go with, as familiar as I am with this, I may call Mr. Miller up since he's slightly more familiar.
Just to
I think
highlight.
overall, this
Yeah.
is just a cleanup of some of the code that's already there. Like you'll see in the containers section, we issue containers for solid waste. So this is declaring you're going to utilize the City of Fulton container. JC, anytime you want to take it away, you go right ahead.
We went off of what you all suggested for some kind of a fine to be imposed on carts being out too long. While we was in there, we did clean up some of the stuff that was in there about the containers. You'll notice the 50 pounds, we took that out.
Yes.
We'll pick up whatever we can since it's all automated now. This was a cleanup job, so what you do see is just everything has been cleaned up and it's put on what we do daily now. So I was looking at the very back of the page. You will see that there's a kind of something in bold. Okay. I do believe that I just put a date. We put a date in here of just January 1. It's actually up to you all to tell me when you would like to get this started. I do believe that we need to advertise it, get it out into the paper, get it in to utility billing, whatever we can to get it out to the public to let them know what's going on.
JC may throw something else in on that. Rather than it be a one-time deal, we throw it in there and say this is what we're planning on doing. It needs to be on there on a monthly basis. So it's, people's always got it in hand because they may actually turn it over and say, well, how long has that been there? Could have been there for 6 months.
And some other things. Are we going to give a little warning the first time?
Yeah.
What's the pleasure of the council? We can make this work however you all want.
I think
And
we should give
again,
them a warning.
the violation is based on complaint, right?
Yes. If it's setting out after 24 hours, we're going to have to pull it back. They got to get it off the street, off the walkways, back onto their property.
But I think what Mr. Stone meant is, we're not gonna go looking for it. It's only if someone calls about their neighbor or something.
I hope so.
That's what I wanted to clarify.
It's going to be the trash place.
Mainly going to be complaint driven.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, good point.
And is this per container? Because I've noticed a lot of individual dwellings have got 2 containers out at the curb.
It will cover all containers that's left at the curb.
So
So if my
if they have
house-
recycling and trash, is that $10 or is that $20?
What's the
Good
pleasure of the
question.
council?
Good question.
Good answer.
I would imagine they would both be fined by having them both out there, because I think we wrote in here, it's per
Per cart.
Per cart, that's right.
And since we're on that subject, so are we saying that everyone's going to be required to get a recycling container versus using their own?
No,
No,
Okay.
not in
we've never done that yet. But again,
I
if that's
just
what
wanna
you
make
all
sure
would
we-
like, we can make it happen.
If we were changing it to that, I just need to know so I can get one.
Well, I think it clarifies, to me, it simplifies and clarifies. A lot of words were taken out, and it makes a little more sense. Easier to read and to,
Well, he
implement.
actually tells them this time they have to take them back from what the other one was. Houses that are empty, do your drivers know, or Because you had something in here about, you know, no one using other containers, so do we pick those up, or do we just leave them at the
Only
restrooms?
if the water's been shut off, we will know, because the utility billings would usually contact us. We will pull our containers and stuff then.
Okay.
We've covered that, I think, in here also.
So when a rental changes or something, it goes back to the landlord?
Yeah. But as long as the water's on, we will leave the cart set there.
Okay.
Okay.
Our rule is if you have an active water meter, you pay solid waste.
Simple.
Okay, I don't see that I understand the correlation, but that's okay.
Because there's lots of people that want water, but they say, well, nobody lives there. I don't, but we're gonna charge, but they do generate waste.
Okay. So they have water, not electric or gas, just water, huh?
It's water.
The January 1 start date, I'm fine with, unless there's a reason to start it sooner. I mean, is there a nuisance to the police department? Is there a nuisance to another city department that we would want to do this sooner? Are we looking at winter weather that maybe we need to enact this by November so that we have carts out of the way for snow removal? I've got no problem with January 1 unless there's a reason that another city department wants us to start this sooner to make their lives easier.
All we can do is ask and see if it affects any other departments.
Well, and I think kind of one reason they talked January 1 was, you know, it's next week's July. So it could be first meeting in August before it's completed, and that'd give them a couple, 3 months for community education. And just kind of, January 1 is going to be the big date.
Sounds good.
So are these gonna be stickers that you're gonna put on them, or
There will be.
that's what these are gonna be? This
They're going to be,
example.
the bottom one will probably be what we'd use, or, I mean, the top one, but we'll narrow it down. They'll be bright red, we've got some orange ones that we're using now. We'll probably change to bright red.
So if we enacted this and we started tomorrow with putting this sticker on the cans, that would give people plenty of notice that we're gonna start finding them as of January 1st. And I think that's a good approach.
So will the sticker be there, notice they got a $10 bill?
It's going to be a notice letting them know that there's going to be one coming in the near future if they don't start complying.
Picking up their cans, yep.
It'd be like our warning to them.
Of course, this will tell some of them, well, I got till January 1st to start bringing it in. But
My concern is who's gonna put this sticker on? Is this a hardship on your
Well,
department, or what?
on my guys, it won't be that bad because really, we don't have all that many. We got areas within the city that's actually a problem, I'll say. They'll be able to, we have a guy that goes around Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and this is all he does. He fixes carts, replaces them, pulls them. So we will have him out. He'll be putting the stickers. He can't write tickets, but he can sure put the stickers on.
Good.
JC, in your, I forgot what paragraph, property is, I know we said take them in 24 hours, so is the property right on your front lawn, or are you insisting it can't be set up?
Anything off the sidewalk, back behind the sidewalk where their property is, I'm gonna consider that to be theirs.
Go.
As long as it's off the sidewalk.
And not in the street?
Or the street?
On the house side of the sidewalk.
Yes.
What if there's no
If they want to put it in
sidewalk?
their front yard, they can put it in their front yard.
Where the grass
So we're
is
not
Gotta
gonna
get
ask
off
them
the
to keep
street.
them,
what we would
we're not gonna
say
ask them to
Off
put
the
them under,
curb.
easement off the curb.
Fair.
we're not gonna ask them to put them under cover,
Oh,
No,
Get 'em
no, we tried that.
inside the garage or whatever.
no. Is yours in the garage?
Not right now,
Build
it
me a
isn't.
garage?
Has, usually is, but it isn't normally.
Mine's not in the
Or
garage.
is
If you build
normally.
me a garage, I'll put it in the
Well,
I put mine on my sidewalk that goes beside my house, back by
Mine,
my
me too,
kitchen.
mine.
I try to put it out of sight.
I'm proud of it.
Yep.
Well, I think you did a good job in.
Who's gonna write the
my
tickets?
concern.
I do too.
Says health inspector.
We need a ticket person.
I believe the
I think
ordinance
that's
says
what
health
was
inspector.
mentioned here last meeting, was going to be the health inspector.
So those tickets will be written at your order? This, who's gonna?
Or
who's gonna-
whoever-
Who's gonna tell her to go out and write?
Who's going to be able to do it if somebody complains to Wendy about it, she would probably get a hold of the health inspector, ask her to go check it, and it would be up to her to make a judgment of writing it.
Our health inspector.
Won't be our police officers that are
But I
dispatched to
do-
do
No.
this.
But I do believe that JC's correct about one thing. There's only certain areas that it's a real serious problem. And so they might feel like they're getting picked on, but I think eventually they'll learn.
What am I gonna do with this $10 when I collect it? Because you didn't take your can in. Where's this $10 gonna go?
Probably general fund,
I'm sorry? General?
probably to the general fund.
Okay.
The council's discretionary fund.
Well, can it go
Steve's
to your
fund. Steve's
recycling fund? To
It would just go in the
enhance
general
it?
fund
General fund.
with other fines and fees.
I think it should
Hopefully,
go
we
into the
won't have to
council's
collect a
fund.
whole bunch, so it
That's
won't
right.
matter.
That's right.
Council's fund.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? If not, you'll see this next meeting in the form of an ordinance, proposed ordinance.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. We'll move on. And
Thanks,
thank you very
JC,
much,
very
Casey.
good.
The new business, and Williams Keeper's been doing an audit, and we're going to invite Kathy to come up and introduce them and tell us about the audit.
We are fortunate enough to have Danielle Stafford with us tonight, who was the lead auditor this year for us, and Heidi Chick from Williams Keeper, who was our engagement partner.
Thanks, appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. I will tell you, if you have any questions, I'm going to turn around to Danielle. That's what she's here for. The biggest mystery when we come out to do the audit every year is what color the covers are going to be. It's amazing how many bright, colorful colors Kathy can find each year, and it's different every year. So you can tell this is a really thick report. We are not going to go through every page. It would be pretty boring, and Bill already told me he would kill me if we did, so it's going to be short and sweet. I will tell you, though, if you do go back, once I'm done with the presentation, and you do have any questions, let Kathy know, or I'm easy to find, let me know if there's any specific questions we don't cover tonight. In the blue spiral-bound book that you have, there is a summary report where I try and put everything together, so it's really, you don't have to go through all these reports. You can go to the summary report as your starting point. So what I'm going to do tonight is really summarize the summary report, just really hit the highlights, and then see if you guys have any questions if that works for you. So if you want to pull that out, we're going to go through it really quick. Essentially, one of the reasons that this is so thick is because you issue what's called a comprehensive annual financial report, and that really goes above and beyond what you're required to do under accounting standards. So if you look at the table of contents, you're going to see a section that's called an introductory section, which is just a transmittal letter and some other information. But the really interesting section that's additional is the statistical section that's in the back. And what's interesting about that is it shows 10 years worth of data, trends and data on your revenue, your expenses, and a lot of different non-financial information back there. So when people want to know about the history of the city and kind of look at stuff, that's kind of where you go. Those two sections are not required. Like I said, they're above and beyond. And I think anytime you present what we call a CAFR, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, it really is a sign of excellence in reporting by the city's part, because it takes a lot of work to go through and not only get the financial statements right, but put together all that information. So your CAFR actually is submitted to an organization called Government Finance Officers Association. They go through and evaluate your CAFR to make sure, number one, it meets all the standards, and number two, people can read it and know about the city, and it's a fair representation, and you do get an award for that. And so you got an award for last year, and we would anticipate that you're going to get an award for this one this year. So again, sign of excellence in reporting. As far as the actual audit goes, we give an opinion on the financial statements, and that opinion this year was what we call an unmodified or clean opinion, best opinion that you can get, so that's obviously a good thing. What that means in technical terms is your financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects in accordance with governmental accounting standards. So translated into English, what that means is people can read this and rely on the numbers. They can rely on the disclosure. So if your citizens look at this, if your financing entities look at this, your grantor agencies look at this, they can rely on the information that's here. So that's really what you want to be able to do. So again, clean, unmodified opinion, which is good. We actually prepared the financial statements, but we do it more as a service on the city side. We've got all the files set up, we do all the electronic stuff. Kathy goes through them in all the detail, and she goes through and reviews them and then proves them. But we actually do produce a report and then work closely with Kathy. When we do an audit, we don't look at every check, we don't look at every receipt, we don't look at every transaction because we'd be here a long time. So what we do is we go through what's called a risk assessment process. So we gain an understanding of what types of accounts you have, what types of transactions you have. We talk to different people throughout the organization to find out, if something were going to go wrong, where would it go wrong? And that's really where we focus our time. So when we do an audit, we use our judgment on what we want to look at. Some things we look at every year. We look at tax revenue every year. We look at your capital assets every year. But then some years we look at different things every year as well. So some of the things are the same, some things are different. So in the end, we think we did enough work to give that opinion. If you look at nothing else, if you look in the second page of the summary report, there are some 3-year trend information there, very high level numbers, so I'm not going to go through them, but they are kind of interesting to look at. I will tell you there's a section in this report called Management's Discussion and Analysis. And what that does, if you don't look at any other part of the CAFR, I would look at that, because that talks about what went on in the city in 2016, compares this year to last year, and also talks a little bit about the budget. So you don't have to be an auditor or accountant to read it and understand it. So that really is I think, a very important part for you to look at. So there's just some financial information in there. So other than that, I wasn't really going to go through the actual financial statement. There's one more, or a couple more things I want to bring up. But any questions on the surface of the actual nice big bright book? Okay, a couple other things that I just want to mention as part of the audit. Because you have federal expenditures of more than $750,000, the federal government has certain additional requirements both on us as your auditor and on you as the city. So we have to go in and do a lot of compliance auditing. We have to pick certain programs to test, and they actually tell us the things to comply with. And at the end, we give an opinion on whether or not you complied with the federal regulations. So we did all that work. You guys do get quite a bit of federal funds, so you'll see that in there. So you do also have a clean opinion on program compliance for your federal programs. So that obviously is a very good thing as well. So there's some reports in there you can look through, but again, a clean opinion. The last thing I'll bring up was we do issue a report kind of on the audit process. We call it our auditor's communication letter. It's just a lot of it, if you actually look at the letter, it's boilerplate. It's consistent with last year. So really the highlights are the audit goes smoothly, that the records were clean. Kathy and her staff work really well with us. They provide us the information we need. So we appreciate that, because that really makes our job a lot easier. We can really focus on what we need to, not worry about trying to figure out why things don't balance or things like that. No new accounting pronouncements. Well, I take that back. There was 2 new accounting pronouncements, and they're listed there. They did not change the way you recognize any numbers. So the revenue recognition or any of that thing didn't change. They're just additional disclosures. If you look in the actual footnotes, there's some additional disclosures related to fair value of investments, so it just added a little more information on that. And then there's a new disclosure that's related to tax abatements. So there's a new standard that says if a government either directly or indirectly abates taxes for economic development, you're now supposed to disclose the program and the dollar amount of the taxes that were abated. It can be things that you as an entity decided to abate, but if you're in a county or in the government and they abated taxes, that means you're getting less revenue. That's also part of that disclosure. So again, it's just a disclosure. I think it's going to be really interesting when the state issues their CAFR to see how much the state abates for economic development. So it'll be interesting. Like I said, the process goes really smooth. We get great cooperation, so no disagreements or anything like that. The last thing I want to point out is we do issue what we call a management letter. When we're doing all of our work, we pay attention to what's going on. If there's any comments to make, we make them there. I am glad to tell you that there were no material weaknesses, which is the worst thing that you could have. What it means is something could happen, and if it did happen, it could cause your financial statements to be materially misleading. So obviously you don't want to have that. And you don't, so we state that in there. There are some recommendations in the management letter. We went over them with the city. The city's already either implemented things to address them or is working on implementing them. So I would anticipate by next year, whatever's not already addressed will go away. So maybe not quite 3 minutes, but
That's okay.
but let me know if you have any questions.
It was every bit of it.
Yeah. But it is an important part, I think, of your governance process. So if you have questions, I want to make sure that I get them answered. And if you didn't have time to look at the report, like I said, go through the summary report, read the management's discussion and analysis, and then if you really want to dive into the numbers and have questions, let us know. We get excited about it, but we know the rest of the world doesn't get excited.
My question is, do you basically go by what Kathy tells you? Do you dig in to make sure that what she's telling you is correct, or how does all that work?
She gives us numbers, so we don't take her at her word.
Okay, all right.
I mean, look.
Yeah,
we
we're
don't
good.
take her at her word. So what happens is, you know, you guys go through the financial reports every month, so Kathy is keeping the financial records. She gives us at the end of the year what we call a trial balance that shows the ending, you know, ending cash balances, ending receivable balance, the revenue for the year. So she gives us our starting information. But then we have to design audit procedures like I talked about earlier. If something were going to go wrong, where would it go wrong? So when we're looking at revenue, it depends upon what it is. So if it's tax revenue, you know, we confirm it with the county treasurer. But we also look at your tax levy rate. We look at your assessed valuation to make sure that it looks reasonable. We confirm revenue with the state. If they're fees, we kind of look at, you know, how many people did something and what were the fees. We look at expenditures. We test a lot of the capital outlay where you buy buildings or equipment or whatever it might be. So we go through and do a lot of different things. And so we'll go and look at invoices in some cases. We'll talk to somebody other than Kathy to kind of corroborate what she said. It really just depends upon the area. We'll send out confirmations either on balances or transactions. We look at debt. So we look at a lot of different areas. But she is the starting point because she has the financial records. But then we do procedures around it to, again, give that clean opinion. Because when we give an opinion, that's putting our professional expertise on the line that we think it's reliable.
Exactly. Well, my concern is you hear on the news occasionally where a certain department embezzled X number of dollars, and it was quite a while before it was ever discovered. I'm not saying that you took it to buy that home on the islands or anything, but that's what I just want to make sure that we don't at some point in time find out that one department embezzled X number of dollars or whatever.
There's no guarantee that that's not going to happen because even if you have the best design system, if someone's there long enough, they can circumvent it. But I think you have controls in place to really reduce the risk. I think where you see fraud, we had two of our clients had payroll fraud last year, and it was really obvious to us when we looked at the data, but the people that should have been reviewing the information weren't. So, you know, if everyone plays their part, you know, starting with Kathy and her staff and Bill, and then you guys looking at the reports, I think your system of controls really lessens the risk that something will happen. Doesn't mean it's 100% guarantee. But we try our best to look at a lot of different things, and that's why some years, I mean, some things we just got to look at every year. But we try and rotate looking at different departments and different balances. So we might look at something every couple of years just to make sure there's no outliers out there.
Okay, thanks.
What runs up a red flag?
I'm sorry?
What runs up a red flag?
Something that takes a lot of judgment to look at. If we look at receivables, you know, our concern is, you know, do you have receivable book that you're actually going to collect? We look at, you know, where there's not that many people that look at a transaction. In general, you know, governments don't have a ton of risk, but anything that takes judgment to determine the balance, anything that there's just a lot of debt we consider higher risk because if you don't follow the debt covenants or you don't pay the debt, you know, you're in trouble. So there's just some things that kind of raise the risk, and it kind of depends upon the balance in the transaction. But usually judgment, the volume of transactions, you know, tend to raise the risk, I think. So we do a lot of governmental auditing, so we kind of learn from other audits as well. So we kind of pool our knowledge to kind of figure out what to do. So in your case, we look at revenue, we look at capital assets, we look at debt, we look at cash, because, you know, at the end of the day, cash rules. You want to know that your cash really is there in your bank account. We look at different disbursements. We look at payroll a lot because you pay out a lot in payroll, so we try and make sure that makes sense. We test individuals to make sure that what they got paid looks like is what was in the budget that you approved. So we do different things throughout to kind of address what we think the risks are.
Thank you.
As far as the cover's concerned, make it simple, blue and white.
I'm partial to green, so the one year she had green, I really liked it. Last year was bright pink, I think.
Everybody pink.
So, bright pink, yeah.
Everybody.
I noticed this year under attachment A, is that new, the IT
Yes,
recommendations?
so what,
Okay.
I talked about
So is
trying
there
every
one
year
you'd
to mix things
prioritize
up.
over another?
Yeah. So one of the things we tried to mix up this year was we had an IT consultant just to come in and look at the high-level general controls, worked with your IT person to come up with some recommendations so that we'll follow up on them next year. But that was one of those alternative procedures that we did. So those were, again, his recommendations for the city to consider implementing to strengthen control. So there's not any big issue there, but you can always improve, especially IT.
Sure.
Right.
Okay.
So that's how that came about. We actually brought in an IT consultant to look
Oh,
at
that's
that.
good. I
Yeah,
appreciate
that's
that.
not too.
I just, like I say, it's the first time I'd seen it.
Yeah, and that's why that was one of the new things we did this year was bring somebody in. And they're way smarter about IT than we are, so we bring in someone that
Very
looks at all that good stuff.
Understand. We hope they are, anyway.
We think they are.
Okay, very good.
Any other
Any other
questions?
questions?
Yes, the two items on page 4. So what do we need to do to make these issues not a concern?
The significant deficiencies.
The
Oh.
significant deficiencies.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we report,
answered.
we have to look at some technical things. So in our opinion, these really are they're not material weaknesses, they're not big deals, we just have to report them. One has to do with the software, and again, we did an alternative procedure this year where we looked at something.
Right.
And so what it was is, we couldn't get a good listing that says, the trial balance says it's X amount, and we always look to see, if you add up all the customers, it's that number. So it's just a software issue that we couldn't do some of the testing. We still feel comfortable with the balance,
Okay.
but we think the city needs to look at the software and be able to produce that report. So we don't think it's a big deal, but again, if you're looking at improving those controls and the reconciliation process, that's something to do.
Okay.
The other one really is even more technical. There was a significant change in the guidance for single audits where they reissued a bunch of new compliance stuff. So it's just one little piece that didn't get done, but the overall, it didn't impact how you ran your program. When we did the compliance testing, you still complied with everything. It's just a matter of having the appropriate written policy. So in our minds, it was not a big deal, but because it's federal funds, we still report it. So,
Okay.
and that's already been taken care of.
Okay.
And some of the IT stuff has actually already been taken care of. And Kathy's working on the first one, trying to figure out what the software can do. She can go in and see customer balances, but she can't print out anything that shows here's who all adds up to that.
So it's a spring book
Yes.
thing?
So in our opinion, they were not material weaknesses. They didn't cause us to change the opinion. It's
Okay.
just something to point out.
Okay. So that's something Springbrook can fix, Kathy? Okay, because I wouldn't imagine we're the only ones that would be using them would have the same concern, so, okay. All right, thank you.
But again, we get great cooperation, everyone answers our questions, they take the time to pull the documents for us to look at. We don't have any disagreements, we talk about a lot of different issues. Kathy's good about bringing up questions so we can talk about them before, she does anything. So overall, the audit goes very, very smoothly. And again, a clean opinion is what you want. Okay, any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So much,
Appreciate it.
very much, thank you. Very good.
Okay, we'll move on. With additional new business,
Council meetings.
the presentation of the proposed 2018 capital budget. I think that was put together by Rob. You want to give us the highlights?
The highlights are, we want a lot of stuff. The reality is, we won't get very much of this stuff. But you're looking at a very preliminary pie in the sky, dare I say. It's not quite that far-fetched, but
Wish list.
this is kind of a look at what some of the anticipated expenditures capital-wise are for 2018. This will change throughout the year. Things will get added, things will get changed, dropped off, modified, you name it, as priorities seem to change in just about every environment. But again, this is just a very, very quick preliminary look at 2018 from a capital perspective.
It's a charter requirement that the mayor present to the city council this capital budget prior to the end of June of each year. There is no action required by the city council. It's just meeting a charter requirement that the city council receive this. And the mayor is actually making this presentation.
And it's a good one.
So let's ask
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor.
You did well, Rob.
That's right, there you go.
Let's ask Mr. Mayor some questions.
Okay,
Okay.
very good. Next item on our list is the smart grid discussion. Darrell, you want to start with that again?
Here we go.
Might give us a report of what the new board had to say.
We did discuss this yesterday at the U board, quite a long time. And Kathy will probably come up here when she comes back in. We still can't build gas and water. There's some issues on the number of decimal places on some of the readings. Tanlis has been working on it. We started working with them fiercely about 3 months ago again on this. It's been an ongoing thing. If everybody remember, we started this process in 2011. The gas and water is still a problem. They can't bill it. The electric has been solid for over a year. We are billing electric. And we do have another system that we use for the handhelds, and we've been looking at possibly using it to bring in the data. It's a system we've been using for years with the handhelds. And that system won't go away because you always going to have a backup to the smart grid, so that that MVRS system will be here to stay in case you have to go back to the handhelds. Do you have her sheet where she did the cost?
No, Kathy's,
Behind you.
you could get Kathy in here?
And Rob's
That's kind of where we're at. Before Kathy starts, because we're giving you a lot of bad news tonight,
okay.
we'll talk about a little bit of what has worked. As everybody knows, we've been doing shut-offs and ons with the system for people leaving town or bad debts for quite a while. That system still works. And that does keep the 2 truck rolls, 1 truck roll to go turn it off, 1 truck roll to turn it back on, and it keeps the employees, for the most part, out of the backyards during that process. If Kathy thinks she has a bad read, they can look it up on Tanlis and verify that reading before sending somebody out, so that's been being used. Last summer was probably the first big use of it. We do get voltage swag reports on customer meters, like maybe Mr. West's house. And we go change those transformers out before the customer knows they're having a problem. We also get flicker reports in the power plant. Once they see a meter's been going on and off for a couple of times, maybe the people's at work, whatever, they don't even know they're having little outages. The power plant calls that out, and the electric crews go and tighten up the connections, find out why that service is losing power intermittently. That's been done quite a bit. We did have one lady that bought a house. Her bill was high. She couldn't figure out why. We did use a smart grid to figure out and ask, why are you using so much less electricity at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
What it was is she had a heated driveway, and it was on. So that's been used. We've had an industry that was having power outages that was causing them problems. We went back through the outage records and found it was mostly due to squirrels. And what we did is we changed the timing on the breakers to where that fuse would blow and that industry would stay on. It was basically a fuse saver setting. If a line just got brushed in the neighborhood, it would operate the whole circuit, and then hopefully the squirrel or whatever was off the line before it came back on. And that was to reduce truck rolls, but in this instance, it was giving factories problems. And then we met with a large user that's trying to figure out why their bills are so high. And we met with them twice now. And with the grid, the smart meters, we'd be able to tell them, here's how much you're using each hour. We don't know what you're using this for, but you may want to look at this. So that's the parts that's that has worked, but we can't build gas and water. And now I think Kathy put together a list, and I think she passed it out, what the costs are, and some of them's annual maintenance. Tantalus is the big dog. And you see the annual maintenance on it. I think this hardware came from Rob.
Yeah.
You sure did. USSI is part of the system. Empire Technology, we use it for the outage system, but then Kyle and his folks use it for the GIS mapping. And that's why you see that it's not all charged to Smart Grid. Before we had this, our electric map was not very good. Showed some things, showed the 69 system very well, but the distribution and the distribution switches it didn't. That part has become very handy since we've had some key employees retire that had everything in their head. Now it is on paper, so that's been a plus. I don't know what Cornerstone is, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's a very small amount. N-Dimension is a cybersecurity system, and you see 50% of it's charged to the smart grid because it's used to secure other parts of the city network besides just a smart grid. And you see the personnel cost. Midwest Meter, that's the water ERT supplier. We are not fully deployed. We have about 800 water meters out there that have ERTs on it. This is the number to finish the water. It does not include new meters. Some of the meters probably do need replaced. I mean, today we changed a fire hydrant out that the cast date was, if I remember right, 1928. So there is some old stuff here.
Oh, yeah.
The electric meters and gas meters, probably, I'm gonna have to look at bills, 7 years ago, 8. We got the water, the electric and the gas we brought up to, I'm gonna say 1985 or something like that. There was some 1940 gas and electric meters out there.
So there's still, some of the oldest, we at least have everything less than 30 years old now.
Yeah. The water meters we have not went through that process on. So when they're out there, some of the water meters are old enough they will not take the antenna. We know that. You know, some of the water meters are old enough that it does not have a leak detector, the little red triangle that rotates. So there is some very old water meters out there. The gas ERTs, that's how much money to replace the rest of the, it's not the meter, it's just the antenna for the reporting system. We've got roughly 800 to 900 of those done, but probably 4,800. So those two bottom numbers, Midwest Meter and Annexter, is the vendors that supply those Itron radios for those units.
Yes, sir.
We really don't feel we'll have to replace very many gas meters because we just went through that process, but I'm sure we'll find some that have an issue. So that's kind of where we're at. And Kathy, you want to add some, or Rob?
Rob.
Is this just because I don't have the history on it, is this where we expected to be right now in terms of getting them hooked up, getting them set up of this cost, or was this something that we were expecting to have already paid for?
We was expecting to be way past this point. I don't believe, unless Kathy can correct me, I don't believe the cost of the radio units for the water and the gas have went up very much from the initial bid.
Okay. So this is just money we haven't yet spent.
We haven't
knowing we were
spent the
going to
bottom.
have to do it sometime.
The bottom two numbers we have not spent because we didn't want to spend any more money until we got to where it could go to billing.
Okay.
Okay. Now what we did put out there, because we did have a little bit of reason, I guess, if we put new water ERTs in a route, that's where the new gas ERTs went. So it's not like we have new gas ERTs in this part of town and new water parts in this part of town. So when we do get it working, we're still reading everything.
Okay.
So the electric is fully deployed. And then we've got certain routes that we have water and gas in.
So for those that have been here long enough, this is money we were expecting. This isn't some brand new, oh, by the way, now we need another $500,000 that nobody was expecting.
No, and you wasn't here, Mr. Stone, but basically, through a DOE grant, we got approximately $3 million. The city was out half, DOE spent the half.
Okay.
And that was to do the electric side. So there was a 50-50 cost share basically on the electric side initially.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have one question. This radar speed signs, is that when I'm driving down the roadway, it shows how fast I'm going? And I was thinking in the past, we were told that really wasn't efficient.
Oh, that's on the capital budget.
That's on the budget.
And that's the answer, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do it even though we don't think it's...
That'll be for consideration throughout
Okay.
the year and approval.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank
It's
you.
just a concept and idea.
Thanks.
On the budget.
Kind of the reason we're talking about the smart grid tonight is, as Darrell mentioned, we thought we'd be much farther down the road now than we are. There are, the definition to me of if it works is if we can bill. And currently, we're only able to bill off the electric. The water and gas has been a struggle to get those all the way through billing. As you mentioned, we're trying this MVRS system now. It's giving us some hope and some possibilities that we're going to be able to pull it together. But I don't know, we've been struggling for a couple of years trying to get it through billing. And the electric side came right through and worked pretty much as it was hoped. But the water and the gas just isn't doing it.
Well,
And I kind of, and we were talking about it earlier today. The progress has been sporadic. And I just want you guys to know, my statement I said earlier today was, I don't want to be sitting here next June having the same discussion that we're having tonight. What are we going to do and how long are we going to let this thing go on? To get it to work.
It's been 8 years already.
Is it a problem that we need,
It has been.
that just needs more money thrown at it? Is it a problem that we don't
think
think
it's-
even more money would fix?
I don't think
I don't think
it's
it's
not a money issue.
I don't
I
think
think it's a technology issue.
I didn't think so too.
And it's, I mean,
Do we have
Rob has the
competing
best.
technologies in the city? Is that the problem?
It's beyond us.
Can I ask,
But, I mean, Rob said it the best. It's two databases. You'd think somebody, somewhere, could figure out a way to have two databases talk to each other.
Nowadays, yeah.
Maybe this MVRS is going to be able to pull it together. Maybe.
Mr. Johnson
Yeah.
or Darrell, either one, what is the upside and the downside? Because I can tell you where I thought that's what Darrell was saying.
Yeah.
I've been here long enough to say, let's punt.
I'm almost there too, Mr. Moore, but I have a couple questions first.
It's not quite sure.
What's our up and downside of your professional opinion?
Yeah.
The upside is basically what we mentioned that we can do now, and that we can bill when we get there. And you could reduce some. You got 3 meter readers right now. The intent was we would be down to 1 meter reader just getting skips.
Right.
That was the intent,
Right.
and that was the agreement with DOE, that we would move these meter readers to other positions or better positions, equal or better. That was the agreement. So the intent the whole time was to reduce the number of meter readers and then get these other benefits.
With all the other benefits that smart grid was going to bring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Darrell, is there anybody else that's got this system working in the United States?
Yes, sir. Several.
What are they doing different?
A lot of them are electric only, or electric and water. As you folks are well aware, we're one of the few utilities that's got all three.
Right.
There's only 2 other utilities I know of in the state that have all 3.
Where the city's responsible for all 3, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we have all three.
One of the 3 is outsourced to a private.
Yes.
Okay.
Can we pick
Thanks.
somebody's brain?
We've called a lot of people. And I think Bill found one the other day that when he called him, the guy at least started off, and he said he wasn't the smartest person there, but he understood the questions. And then that gentleman's smart person has been working with Kathy for probably the last week and a half.
Okay. So we are kind of,
And it's shown some promise.
And shown some promise.
you know, how long do we,
I've got a few questions.
At least the two softwares or databases are talking to each other. They don't understand each
Yeah,
other.
one's talking English, one's talking Spanish, but
Yep.
at least they're talking.
Yep.
Yeah.
you got
Okay.
that?
Yeah, she has a heartbeat between them 2 now. Before, nothing would
Nothing,
even
a
import.
heartbeat.
So I think we've established a heartbeat. And he told us of 2 cities, I don't remember where they're at, that's using TAMLIS and MVRS. One was in Georgia.
These costs here, some of these appear to be annual, some of them appear to be one-time capital outlays. Which are which?
Went from the top to in dimension, I believe those are all annuals, except you have to ask Rob on the hardware.
Personnel isn't, the one?
Personnel would be too.
Personnel is.
So all those are annuals, so we're probably talking,
We're talking right at 200,000.
yeah, close to 200,000
Just a little under.
for annual cost for this. I think
But that's
3
where we're
meter,
already at.
that would pay for a lot of meter readers, okay?
And
I mean, I know where we want to go with this, that it's automated
That's
system,
money
all
we're
that.
spending now.
I know.
Okay.
Right, right.
Is that just for the electric?
No, that's
No,
for
that'd be
all,
for
No,
all.
that's all.
that's all 3 services.
Okay, and I mean, compared,
I see.
to me, I think we need a cost-benefit analysis on this. I'd like to see what's it cost us if we cut and run and where we are versus what we're doing here, because I don't think this is ever gonna pay for itself, and that's just, and then that translates to higher rates for our citizens and our customers.
If we can get the system up and running, what's the benefit to us as far as?
If I could kind of interject here.
Yeah, what?
Yesterday at the U-Board meeting, we went into a lot of the same things that you're asking, you know, and you're getting to the point now where we don't necessarily have the answers without some research.
Yeah.
But basically, where we came away from the U-Board was that I think it's time for, and this is, again, you guys were all there, you correct me if you heard something different, but I think what the U-Board, in their wisdom, said, it's time to become formal. Up to this point, we've been the good guys trying to work with each other, and now it's, you know, and it's like Daryl's and everyone's pointing out, the biggest thing we want done is the billing, and we're just so close we can just taste it, but it's just not working. So
I've been hearing that for years, though.
the bottom line is to become formal. In other words, we're to the point where it's attorneys talking, we're establishing deadlines, and, you know, if it's not done by this time, then we're gonna get really formal. And you know, begin to hold people's feet to the fire. I think there's also been conceptions of differences in opinion of what is completed. In other words, you know, a lot of these various hardware or software providers have achieved what they want or what we went into it for. But maybe our expectations were a little different than what was communicated. So we've been trying to do that all through the good old boy system and or through communication that way. But I think it's just time that we get formal.
Okay.
That's the best way that I can put it.
I mean, this has been going on since 2009, for 8 years.
I think everyone's ready for a completion date.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt about it.
But of that $3 million that we started off with for capital?
Right.
Is that what the number was?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're on the ballpark.
How much of that is left?
That is closed.
Yeah.
The electric section of it that DOE sponsored has been closed.
Okay.
And the electric is working.
And
that
it's
part
working, so, you know.
Yeah.
is done.
Otherwise, we'd have never settled out the grant, so.
So did we go over and beyond what the original contract was?
Yes.
What we were asking for?
Well, we
Well-
went above and beyond but we knew that. We went above, because the water and gas was not covered by the grant. Now, the
Okay.
way we referred to it is the electric is gonna be the backbone,
Right.
and
Right.
the water and gas could tag onto that backbone
Right.
to come home. But that's where we're having some troubles. The water and gas IRCs that we have out there, we've got great communication with them. We just can't get it from we can't get it from one server to the other down in Kathy's office.
What's the savings?
Well, when we first
If the billing
started,
was working,
when we-
what's that benefit?
when we first started this, electric was going high. I mean, we made a deal for $64 for power. The economy crashed, okay? We was so glad when that year was up because we could buy it for 35.
Right.
This was set up, and one of the good things of this was we could go to time of use billing. You cannot do time of use billing without smart meters. You just can't do it. That was one of the things that this does give you that you cannot do without it. Now, you want to call that hourly billing, peak billing, whatever. That was one of the big stickers, was time of use billing.
If we could bill, the system would have value. Between the extra services that the customer is going to get, they'll never even to know.
Right.
Between the swapping out a transformer that's getting hot before it blows, by helping to squirrel-proof something that the customer never knows or sees,
Yep.
by being able to turn your electric off if you haven't paid, with just at a flick of a button, sitting at a computer here in the city hall, and being able to turn you back on right away, being able to turn you back on right away.
Yep.
By monitoring your water meter so that we know tomorrow if you have a water leak today,
Right.
rather than maybe not knowing for 60 days. And, Kathy has sent out $2,000 water bills
Yep.
because somebody had a water leak for 40 days.
Understand.
And we're gonna know that now, and the customer's gonna know that now, and the customer's not gonna get that bill. I mean, and we're able to monitor the efficiencies of the electric system to adjust voltage throughout the system, to
Right.
make sure that you're getting clean, safe, adequate power.
Understand.
Used to.
And so
If we have
then-
an-
so
if
then
we have an-
look at that and say, does that added intrinsic value, is that $500,000? And we're saying no, it's not. So if we added the billing piece to it,
Then the answer is
then-
yes.
Then the answer is yes. What I'm asking is, is that line itemed out? I mean, are we gonna save 3 people? Are we gonna save 3 FTEs? Are we gonna save $50,000 in this software support because we've got this working over here? Why does the billing make it all worthwhile when without the billing it's not? Is there a dollar value to that ability?
Yeah, 2 full-time employees in that meter reading spots.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
And,
So there's
and ti-
$100,000 a year.
and time.
And
Right.
in time.
She can read all the meters, boom,
Understand.
in 30 minutes.
And
But bottom line on the budget, we're talking about $100,000 a year.
200. Well, under.
Well, they said 2 FTEs and a little bit of something else. So-
Right. And your maintenance and all that kind of stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
so in 5
But-
years, it's paid for if we can bill for it.
Well-
If, without billing for it, then we really have no money that we can put to it. It's just all of that other value that we've got, which is
Without counting the
extremely important.
Without counting the other value, it won't make money. You
Right.
gotta, but I don't know how much value to put on what the things that Bill mentioned.
No, and I don't expect you to.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't,
Other than we know that it's not $500,000 worth.
Right. And if you look at the 200,000 versus the $35 million city budget, that's a pretty small
Understand.
There's
It's
another
less than
piece of
1%.
this
But it's
too, though.
something that's paying
Yeah.
for the outlay of capital.
Right.
There's another piece of this that we've talked about in years past, that right now, we read the meters like around the 15th of the month, and then we get the bill the 1st, so then we get payment by the 15th, and don't hold me to those times.
Lag
But
time.
and sometimes it becomes 35, 36 days in January and December, and then other times it's less. We can get more consistent with that, and we can shorten that time that we're here earning receivables, and we're actually increasing the amount of time between when we read the meter, send out the bill, and get the money back from the customers. It has that potential. I know Kathy and I have talked about that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So, anyway.
I think deep in Daryl's heart, it was a great project and I voted for it in the beginning. But I'll put my comment out. By end of the year, if we haven't got any further than we are today, Councilman Stone said another 5 years. I can't see putting that into it if we ain't gonna do any better.
Well, no, I mean, if we could build today, then we'd pay for it in 5 years, was my 5-year comment.
Well, I don't know if it helps him by telling your technology people in my council said, hey, if you can't get nothing by end of the year, we got a second thought about it.
And Steve, that's kind of
And-
what, I think we just
yeah.
need to give the company notice that if, come to the end of the year, we're not gonna be as happy and friendly to get along with.
No, we got to set line.
And maybe it's time to, to have the attorney make a phone call.
Maybe by next
We'll
quarter.
start writing, we'll start communicating through letters.
Can
Go from
we,
Stuff goes slow.
Okay.
Oh, I know.
can we start getting more frequent updates on this? Because this has been kind of hit and miss. I think maybe, I don't know whether we want to go monthly or just
Monthly.
quarterly or something,
Monthly's
but.
fine.
Yeah.
but,
Especially if we've got
Thank you,
communication
Mother.
going back.
Especially if we get progress.
I knew the staff has been struggling with it for
Well, yeah.
Sure, years.
many years, okay?
That's right.
But,
We've
You
been,
never
we-
wanted to
yeah,
turn that
we've all been struggling with it.
Right.
Yeah.
It happens.
And you've heard those reports as we've gone.
Sure.
right.
But it's just now time, I think, that we say, you people are not
We're
paying
probably
attention.
past that, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
th-
too
th-
nice.
there's some communication here that's not
Yeah,
happening,
too
so.
nice.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl.
Yes, very much.
Appreciate your answer.
That'll be our plan, and thank you for the update, Darrell, and the rest of you.
And they're gonna be on the phone with us tomorrow morning, so we can kind of let them know that we're looking at the end of the year.
Yep.
Okay, let's continue on with the agenda. Council members' concerns. Mr. Shilen, we'll start with you.
Okay, this basically, this goes to Bill. What I heard a while ago was that we're probably not gonna do anything to those old hangars out there. I'd like to make a recommendation or for somebody to go out there and do a survey of where we're at on, let's just tear them down. We got what, Kyle? We got what, 2 or 3 planes in those old hangars? The 3? So I mean, let's give them notice that, they're gonna come down within a certain window, and that's where I'm looking for some guidance.
Should we give them notice that they're gonna come down, and if anything opens up in the new sector, they either have to take it or they gotta move to the tarmac?
Absolutely.
And then we'll just kind of let the normal rotation and attrition take care of the ones, so they got, at least have a spot in the new
Like I
hangars.
said, there are 3 planes out there that are in those hangars. But it's a set, at one time or another, it was a 7 space for 7 planes. Now then, it's been damaged. We're not gonna repair it, we don't wanna spend money. It'd be better just to tear it down, and it'll be sitting there in case a corporate wants to come in and build something.
So you got a nice
That's an
spot.
ideal place for it.
Good point.
And just give notice to the other ones that it could be 30 days, could be 6 months, could be a year.
That's a good plan.
Very good, thank you.
Next thing is, how's our buzzer deal going with our electricity? Oh, something ran them off.
Electricity.
Well, I hadn't heard anything, so that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Mr. West?
Yeah, I had two, and I can only remember one. Okay. Maybe it'll come to me by the time we get to the other end. Rental properties. Mr. Moore's brought this up in the past about having some sort of, and I've talked to Mr. Hudson about this, that when rental properties change from one tenant to another, we change utilities or whatever, that we get an occupancy inspection or something like that. I think you've brought that up before, haven't you, Mr. Moore? And being familiar with a few rental properties in town, I think it may be about time that we start doing that. I know that would stretch our resources pretty thin that we have, but
We would require additional staff.
yeah, so it's something to think about, and I'd like to revisit that sometime in the future.
Okay.
Maybe a work session or whatever.
Very good.
And if I think of the other one, I hope by the end.
Occupancy
But
permit for rental.
the other one's more positive, but I don't remember what it was now.
Okay, thank you.
That could
Is
be
it recorded?
positive too. That
Yeah.
could be positive, yes, it can. Oh, there's a big truck, there goes that street light.
Did you have something?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm watching the truck that's trying to turn. Sorry. In the budget, I want to make sure we have some monies that budgeted for sidewalks. We definitely need to stay on sidewalk project. Okay?
Okay.
In this town, they are. Downtown's bad, we've got a lot of problems.
You talking about the sharing thing, or?
I'm talking about just, yes, the downtown sidewalks are, definitely need to make sure we have money allotted.
Okay. We'll keep that in mind.
Our
Keep going.
sidewalks.
Mr. Stone? Oh, did you have another one?
No, that's all, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stone?
As some of you are aware, I also sit on the Callaway County Ambulance District Board, and last Tuesday, we passed an ordinance facilitating that all first responders in Callaway County with training and resources and the appropriate protocols would be able to administer Narcan through a nasal spray upon arrival of somebody that they suspect to have had an opioid or heroin overdose to save their life. And the ambulance district is reaching out to each of the first responder departments, which includes Fulton Fire Department, Fulton Police Department, as well as all the other Callaway entities. And so my question is twofold. One, is the city council interested in a presentation by the Callaway County Ambulance District on the need, the use, the benefit of this type of ordinance that's available and the training that's available? And second, does it require any city council actions to allow it? If the ambulance district approached, say, Chief Meyer, Chief Kofelt, and they chose to participate with the ordinance, is that something that they do entity to entity, or does it require city council?
I would want it to be a city decision.
Understand.
If it is administered to someone who's not suffering from heroin overdose, are there any negative side effects?
There are not. That's one of the positives of this particular medication is there's very little harm if it's administered to the wrong person. But hopefully the protocols and the training that each of them would receive would minimize the medication being given to somebody.
And as an administering organization, would we incur any additional liability by administering the drug?
No, there's state law and federal law that protects the first responders with administration of this type of medication, even specific to this medication, as part of the Good Samaritan first responder laws.
Would there be any cost to the city? I didn't see you up there.
I just got here.
He just stepped up there, yeah.
For 2017, there will not be any cost. The Callaway Ambulance District has chosen to incur all costs incurred this first year of providing enough medications to everybody for them to be able to have them with them and to administer them, and we will replace them at least through calendar year 2017. And because that's all we were able to vote on. You have to vote on it each year for expenditures. But it's an annual cost to the county of about $20,000. If we have to, even if it's never used, we still have to swap out the medication about every 6 months because of the life of the medicine. And so then we based it on the usage that we've had and based on the number of vehicles that it would be in, and even swapping those out, it was about $20,000.
I appreciate you bringing it up, Jeff, and I only stepped up because it's kind of a topic relatively new within Murma's environment. They have given their blessing to the dispensing of Narcan. Our issue, and I guess let me confirm, I believe we will treat at this hour, will we not, if we deal with a situation that Narcan would be beneficial? The issue is, obviously, that has to be refrigerated, and our police cars are not refrigerated.
At the moment, it does not have to be refrigerated, but it does have a small window of temperature variance that it likes, and the ambulance district continues to research that. It likes to live on a shelf at room temperature between 39 and 77 degrees. And when it does that, it can live for 18 to 24 months and still be completely
How
effective
about
even at the end of that
120-degree car?
That would be the issue, I suppose.
They use the term excursions, that the medication can make excursions into temperatures that varying from those two. And that's what we're looking into is, okay, what's an excursion? Is an excursion every day for the next month at 104 degrees in the trunk of a car, or is it? And we're looking into it. And that we passed the ordinance, which allowed us to start the conversations with each of the areas. It allowed us to start that detailed conversation with the Narcan provider. And so we're looking into it.
I just wanted to mention it was worthy that from a liability perspective, Burma has weighed in on it.
Yep.
They have given it its blessing. We may have the cart in front of the horse if it's going to be, a council decision, because I think we have plans to react if the situation called for it.
Okay. Good.
Well, based on what
that's
you've
kind
said,
of what
and based
we're
on
doing.
maybe it's not going to require council's action. It's just
Just get some
I'm
coolers,
ignorant when it comes to it, and
And I am a little.
But hearing that Murma's given its blessing, that
Yeah. Just get some
Yeah.
coolers.
Coolers or something to keep it.
There are electric coolers
Mr.
plugged
Mayor.
into the cigarette lighters.
Mr. Mayor.
There are.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
So, I mean, yeah.
Could you come back to me? I remember my other item.
I wanted to bring this up
Sorry, you don't,
You're SOL.
to make sure that we knew that this was a conversation that is being held, and just to make, if you would like Charlie Anderson to come and make a formal presentation to the city council, we can request that at a future date.
or maybe to the chief of police and fire chief,
I'd like,
And
as compared
those
to the,
conversations are already occurring.
as compared to the city council.
I'd like.
let's go.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how much this body needed to be involved in those decisions. Thank you.
Get
Thank
to the
you.
County Chiefs Association, probably would get it. Okay, I remember the other item, and I apologize, but the state recently passed a law that Uber and Lyft can operate. Do we need to pass anything to approve that? Because
No,
State
we
law.
have
We can
no
go right over.
jurisdiction over that.
we have no jurisdiction, so somebody can do an Uber in town and no problems right now. Okay, that's fine. I know we had to pass taxi cabs, so that's why I asked.
No,
All right,
they're exempt from getting any sort of city permit or licensing. All of that's going to be handled through the state, so we don't touch that at all.
okay, good.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ms. Gray?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Moore?
I have only two little things. One is I like to give kudos to our downtown merchants for this summer. I noticed that a lot of our merchants are painting their storefronts and fixing them up. I think our downtown is looking good as you drive around the square. And the other one, I know that the mayor and our administrator probably be back in the capital budget, probably cutting some or changing things around. 2 years ago, I asked for it, so for 2018, I'm going to ask for our electronic sign on outside the city hall. And my suggestion was, can we tax each department, because they all probably have something to put on there for meetings or something. No, I don't give up, Mayor.
Yeah, me either. Sidewalks.
Okay.
All right, that's it.
Electronic message board, right?
That's it.
Yeah, we put one out for the church out there on
It's
Yeah.
nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilman
I have
Sheridan?
nothing.
No.
Mr. Mayor, I had one other item.
Sure.
It's too late.
I'm sitting between two here.
This is an easy one. I just wanted to acknowledge that fellow council member Shiverdecker celebrated a birthday yesterday.
Yes, he did.
Happy birthday.
Turned up when he wanted by now.
Very good. Okay, very good, thank you. We'll move on with those actions and see where we can go with them. Okay. Now we move forward to, well, we've been at it an hour and a half. Anybody need a break?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. Be back in 5 minutes. Call the meeting back to order. Thank you. We'll move on to resolutions now. Resolution number 3286 has to do with the resolution concerning the approval of contract with Missouri Petroleum Products. Councilman Shiverdecker, would you please present resolution number 3286 for consideration?
Yes, sir. Resolution 3286, a resolution authorizing the mayor on behalf of the city of Fulton, Missouri, to execute a contract with Missouri Petroleum Products Company, LLC, of St. Louis, Missouri, and to sign all necessary documents in relation to said contract for the purpose of providing aggregate seal coat services at the estimated cost of $40,000. Make a motion that we adopt resolution 3286 at tonight's meeting.
Second.
Very good. I have a motion and a second. Has anyone got any questions?
Have we dealt with these people before? Are
Yes.
they good and reliable?
Yes, very much.
Okay.
Very good. Hearing no more further questions, call for the question. All those in favor of approving 3286, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Very good. Thank you. Now consider resolution number 3287, which is a resolution approving contract between the city and Burns and McDonnell from work on stormwater. Councilman Stone, would you please present resolution 3287 for consideration?
I present resolution number 3287, a resolution authorizing the mayor on behalf of the city of Fulton, Missouri, to execute the professional services agreement with Burns and McConnell for the pilot area evaluation and improvements project with cost not to exceed $97,934, authorizing task order 1 and to sign all necessary documents in relation to said contract and task order. I hereby move to adopt first reading of resolution number 3287 by title only at tonight's meeting.
Approved. Yeah, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, very good. I have a motion and a second to approve resolution 3287. Are there any questions or discussion on this motion?
Question, this actually includes work also, correct? Not just evaluation?
Some design.
Just evaluation and design only?
Evaluation and design, they're not gonna do anything. They'll leave the work up to us or another contractor.
And how much of the city will this evaluation and design?
A 66-acre area, kind of encompassed by the bricks.
Is that normal and usual cost for this type of work for that, I'll say, small of an area?
We've never done this before. We negotiated it down both by reducing the scope of services and just getting them to cut their costs and their rates by probably 30%.
Okay.
Started out about
I'm at a council meeting, I'll call you later.
And we're down to less than 100 now. So.
Did we have comparable bids from others, or are they?
It's professional service. You don't do it on cost. You do it on.
Understand on their ability. Yep. But did we have other opinions?
We did. I think we did 3 or 4 interviews.
And this was about the same type of money.
We don't talk money until you pick the consultant.
Thank you.
Money's is not to be one of the criteria.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation.
Is this the same thing we did a while back? evaluating Court Street and
No,
all that?
what we did a while back was monitoring the storm water that was getting into the sanitary sewer.
Oh, okay.
Now this is gonna be monitoring just the stormwater system.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving resolution number 3287, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Okay, very good. That does it for resolutions. We'll now move on to ordinances. First reading ordinance. Bill number 1475 is an ordinance that has to do with changing some stop signs and yield signs within the city and our traffic code. Councilman Moore, would you please present bill number 1475, first reading, title only?
Bill number 1475, ordinance number blank, an ordinance amending chapter 110, traffic and vehicles, article 6, operation division 7, stop and yield intersection, section 110-283, stop sign and yield sign, Fulton City Code by removing a yield sign and acting a stop sign and establishing an effective date. I move this for second reading at the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to advance bill number 1475. Is there any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of advancing 1475, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Good. Yeses have it. 1475 is advanced. Now consider second reading ordinances, and Councilman West, I'll ask you to present bill number 1474, which is an ordinance that has to do with amending for a final time our budget balances for year 2016. If you'll please present this bill, second reading, title only.
I'm going to do third too. Do we anticipate any changes to the figures?
No.
All right. Unless somebody has an objection, we'll go to third also.
Go right
Sure.
ahead.
All right. Bill number 1474, ordinance number blank, an ordinance authorizing amendments to the City of Fulton budget for the fiscal year 2016 as outlined by Article 8, Financial Procedure, Section 8.8, Amendments. After adoption, Paragraph C, Transfer of Appropriations, Fulton City Charter, and establishing an effective date. I move that bill number 1474 be advanced to third reading at tonight's council meeting.
Second.
By title only.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to advance bill number 1474. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Very good. Bill number 1474 is advanced for third reading. Councilman West, would you please present it for third reading and by title only?
Yes, sir. Bill number 1474, ordinance number blank. An ordinance outlining amendments to the City of Fulton budget for the fiscal year 2016 as outlined by Article 8, Financial Procedure, Section 8.8, Amendments after adoption, Paragraph C, Transfer of Appropriations, Fulton City Charter, and establishing an effective date. I move that bill number 1474 be considered for final passage at tonight's council meeting.
Second.
Very good. Thank you. Is there any discussion of this motion and second? Very good. All those in favor of advancing 1474 for final consideration, please signify by saying yes.
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 All those opposed, no. Very good. You've heard bill number 1474 presented 3 times. It's now time for final decision-making. Please answer yes or no to the roll call.
Okay, Ms. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Reclue?
Yes.
Mr. Shiverdecker?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. West?
Yes.
And Mr. Shyland?
Yes.
7 council members affirmative, 1 absent.
Very good. Bill number 1474. Considered for signing. Very good. Announcements. Madam Clerk, would you like to present those?
Sure. Final reservations for the MML annual conference, which is September 10th through the 13th at Tantera, are due by the end of this meeting. So if you haven't talked with me, please see me after the meeting. Our next city council meeting will be held Tuesday, July 11th, with a work session at 6:30 p.m. and regular session at 7. And one final announcement that was not on there. After speaking with the mayor and Mr. Johnson, we're looking to utilize our Monday lunch at the MML conference for a possible retreat concerning the charter. And some of that information was provided to you earlier this week, some of those changes we might be looking at. So once we get a little bit closer, I'll make sure you have the information you need.
Yeah, if I can embellish on that a little bit. I'd like to figure out how many changes you all would like to propose. We were considering primarily around the election, based on Councilman Shiverdecker's proposal. But again, if there's substantial changes that need to be done to the charter, that we probably ought to consider maybe reappointing a charter commission. But you know, if we can keep it to one or two items, that we'd move with it from there. Because what we'll have to do is present it to the constituents next April for their approval on that thing. So, okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Sure, sir.
In that, if we do it at the Missouri Municipal League, from the day when it's talking for the rest of council, can we have what our costs are involved in that and that strategy for educating the citizens while we're doing it?
Thank you. Yes. We've had some discussions, didn't quite understand how the county clerk came up with the cost for an election. We did find out today that it's based on the number of registered voters in each community, and then the number of communities that have a question for that particular election, and the cost is divided up based on proportion of your registered voters to the total. And so it's a pretty straightforward, easy system. It was easy enough, I could even understand it. So it worked pretty well. So that's, yeah. So we were pleased with that discussion, and Mrs. Hubbard did a very good job of discussing and explaining that situation to us. So, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. With I do not have a need for executive session. So.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Very good. Thank you. I have a motion and second for adjournment. All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
BJ?